It's the Sports Peninsula podcast coming up. The Detroit Lions took care of business on Sunday Night Football last week, defeating the now 14-3 Minnesota Vikings 31-9 at Ford Field. The Lions have now won their division for the second season in a row and have the number one seed in the NFC. Both of these accomplishments are first in the Super Bowl era for the Lions. The Detroit Lions now will rest and wait for their next opponent. We'll look back at the Sunday night win and preview Wild Card Weekend next. Now here is your Sports Peninsula team. And welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Dave Drzinski. Drew, it is Saturday, January 11th, the start of Wild Card Weekend in the 2024 NFL season. We're going to talk about that and more coming up. First, let's introduce Coach Andy Shield, Marine City Mariners. Coach, how you doing?
Doing well, Drew. Doing well. Busy time this new year already, just 2025, and not so busy this weekend, though, which is kind of nice for a change. First time since week 5 that we've gotten to take our breather because, we've been beat up so bad. Not us, but the guys that we root for. But yeah, things, exciting times.
Oh, indeed. And that rest is reminiscent of 1991. Uper Brad Harrison joining us as well. We haven't had a bye week in the NFL for the Lions since then, I believe, and that was the number 2 seed. How you doing?
Yeah, Drew, that's what we were just talking about before we started recording. There's always been such a focus to get into the playoffs, and a joy to get into the playoffs. But I'm thankful that we have leadership that sets the tone for the men in the room that says, no, there's something beyond getting into the playoffs. This bye is important. This is
playoffs.
Important. Yeah, playoffs. So we're talking playoffs. We're talking playoffs, fellas.
We are.
That's awesome.
Drew, how are you doing, man?
I am good. I'm rested. I'm ready. I'm looking forward to watching these games this weekend and kind of prognosticating who may the Lions play. And there's a variety of scenarios that could play out. Well, I'm sure we'll touch on that as well. Yeah, it's been great. I mean, you think about it. This is only in our fandom, which is going back to 1980 for us, because do the math, kids at home. We're a little up there in age, but we're not uncool enough that we're not out of touch with what's going on nowadays. So we're there. This is only the 14th time in our fandom since 1980 that the Lions have made the playoffs. Think about that. They've only won 3 playoff games in our lifetime. 2 of those came last year. So it's all still new for us even. Now you got, kids and fans that are, 20, 30 years younger than us, man. This is all new. So it's.
And you can even tag upon that. I mean, kids that are maybe 15, 16, 17, 18 years old with the Lions, of course.
Mm-hmm.
The Tigers, they didn't really get to live or see them be. They were very young when that happened. They wouldn't have remembered it. Pistons and Red Wings for sure. Now we have all of those turned, look like seemingly kind of on the upward trajectory. The Tigers. So it just seems like the whole vibe is changing, but leading the charge.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Silver. See the old spirit. See what he's got. What he's donning right now. He's got himself a Mo Alexander jersey on over there downtown. Wearing that number 1 Detroit, the new style Detroit Lions jersey, looking sharp.
Well, I showed my age. I said my first thought was Tom Skladany. So I'm old school. Guys, let's talk about that Minnesota game on Sunday Night Football, man. I mean, you talk about everything's on the line. Minnesota's 14-3 and is now the 5th seed having to play a road playoff game, guys. I'm very grateful the Detroit Lions are not the Minnesota Vikings right now because of that. And, Coach, you brought it up, that bye week, huge. The Lions haven't had a bye week since week 5 with all the injuries. Man, this is just going to be so helpful. But, guys, let's talk about it. 31-9. Brad, I'm going to start with you, man. Did you think the Lions would win by that kind of a margin?
No, we wouldn't. I don't think any of us were expecting that second half leading into the game, right? Even the first half to have the defense making those stops in the red zone. My hat's off to Aaron Glenn and that staff to how they set up the team, the mindset that was there. Alex Anzalone, huge. That's, that was the jolt that defense used. And no, I didn't anticipate 31-9. I was cheering for a win and wondering what was going to happen after the first half, because it just, it was a struggle. Two teams that know each other. That Minnesota staff, I give them credit, but they are not the staff that Detroit has.
Very
I
true.
would love to see a side-by-side of that halftime in their room and in our room, because we got the guys, man. And that's the 31-9 is what happened at that halftime.
Yeah, that was amazing. Amazing performance. Coach, I don't know about you. I was not feeling real good after the first half. Not negative, but just thinking, how many times can you stop any team in the red zone with the defense kind of patchwork, although it's starting to come back together? Man, what a second half. Talk about what you thought.
Well, when you're both, we have 2-14 and two teams. There's two good defenses out there. Yeah. And that's just going to probably be the case. And we can talk about scheme. And, when you get on these kind of these runs a little bit, we're 15-2. There's also, to get to be 15-2, there's a little bit of luck in big games as well. And I think it's also fair to say Mr. Darnold did not play very well. And did the Lions have something to do with it? Yes, but like I said, Sam Darnold didn't play very well. Sam Darnold had a little something to do with that too. And you go into the first and goal from the 5-yard line 3 times, and you have 3 points. That's great defense, yes, but that's also, come on. That's some futility on that offense too. So, yeah, the Vikes don't have the offense the Detroit Lions do. So let's get back to the team concept here. To say that I was, surprised about the first half of play, not really. They're feeling each other out. We're not trying to do things on just trick plays. We're not, turning our playbook inside out, and they're a good defense. Darnold was not playing well. He kept the score down for Minnesota pretty much by himself in that first half. And then we adjusted, and then we wore them down on offense and started running the football. And Gibbs ran all over the place. He had 4 touchdowns on the day, 3 rushing, 1 receiving. And it was Detroit Lions football. So what did you see in the end, guys? You saw the 2024 Detroit Lions do what they did basically all year long, minus the Buffalo game, minus the Tampa Bay game, and minus for parts of that home opener versus the Rams. Basically, and there were some lags on defense every once in a while. Hey, some people are going to, they're going to hit home. But yeah, and Coach Glenn and that staff did a marvelous job. Those players' response, and some of these guys are just, they've been around for a couple of weeks. They were phenomenal response. So many great, little stories inside of that defense with Amik Robertson playing the way he did, which was a marvel against a guy that he'd been competing against since high school. Just we can go right down the litany of everyone. Alex Anzalone being back, there's no doubt the communication on that defense and guys being in position was better than it was prior to him not being in the lineup. So 100%, and yes, he was active with his 7 tackles, and yeah, he did show pro football players kind of warrior mentality with his. I think Drew, you had shared that earlier in the week. His snap count, that he was supposedly on. He was on a snap count. They counted his snaps.
Yeah, he was not.
They didn't. No one lied. His snaps were counted. We didn't know what that limit was. But those are my thoughts, Drew. Drew, what do you? That's me. I am not that surprised. No.
Yeah, I'm pleasantly. I'm not shocked. I'm pleasantly surprised at how well the defense played. But you're right, Coach. The Minnesota offense did struggle a bit. Darnold didn't play great. Their offensive line let him down in a lot of ways. He was under duress.
There was more pressure. you know, and we hit home on the second play of the game, and Zadarius hit home right away there. But yeah, I mean, Al Qadim did. I mean, we were there was, you know, DJ Reader was pushing pocket a little bit inside, making some discomfort, and that did lend to some inaccuracies. And Darnold's passing, no doubt.
And they were so out of sorts. They were so out of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Aaron Jones, where were you for the majority of that game? They started running, they ended with some, but
well, and Cam Akers kind of came in there. And
Cam Akers, yeah, he put up some yards. But I just think like that whole game was a culmination of what Dan Campbell has created over a 4-year span. You know, our going forward on fourth down in the red zone is a lot different than the Vikings going forward on fourth down in the red zone. Those guys were freaked out. You could just sense it.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't know if they were going to go for it. They knew they should have gone for it, but they know if the Lions were there, they'd go for it. So O'Connell's like, well, we're going for it. And guess what? Hit the sidelines.
Yeah, you know, that's a great point. And obviously, as Lions fans, we love the aggressiveness. If you don't, then you don't love Dan Campbell, when you might as well
go watch a different team, because this is who we are.
But I almost felt that's a great point. I almost felt like Minnesota was a little bit trying to disguise themselves as the Lions in that respect. That's not their style. And coach, when you got an opportunity to get points on the road, do you take those points off the board? That's tough.
When you're playing in the stakes that you're playing in, and it seems like such a calculated defensive effort. I mean, much like these two national semifinals, there have been two great football games played between, last night with Ohio State and Texas, and then Penn State and Notre Dame the night before. You can see how they play out, and it's kind of an old school. And the NFL works like that much more than college does. That kind of mimicked almost an NFL playoff game in many ways. These two national semifinals do, and that game on Sunday certainly did as well. And that's kind of this kind of almost like chess match strategy in regards to kind of almost being a kind of conservative type of football mindset. Yet we're trying to outflank you a little bit too, and you kind of saw that. So that low score like that, when you're managing it, all you need is one big play, and people get put on their heels real quick. And that's that response that, are they going to get impatient then after that?
Yeah.
It really never got to that. It just seemed like it was just this, high caliber, high prize fight. So, I mean, I really think when you look back at it, it was. I mean, it's Campbell said something like, we've been in the playoffs for the last few weeks. And there's some truth to that, because, you're getting down to these last couple of weeks. You're jockeying for this position to be the number one seed. And you want to hold on to it desperately, because it is such a great advantage in trying to get to New Orleans in mid-February. And so was the last week. Yeah, we really was the start of the playoffs, and it played out that way.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Guys, let's talk about now the Lions have the bye week. We know that. Let's talk about the injuries right now. So there's going to be some updates. Now, the defense is getting healthier. Guys, it looks like Hutch, it's still a possible Super Bowl return. Who knows? I would say they're not counting on that. Campbell's quote, he said, if anyone could do it, it's Hutch, but he's a long way away still.
Yeah,
so,
and I'm glad to almost hear that. Personally.
Yeah,
I really do not want to see him playing that, because I think there's going to be more he's going to play in. Don't you guys think that?
Yeah, exactly. This is not a 1-2 year window. This is at least a 3-4 year window here, and it should be more. If they keep doing what they're doing at the draft table, it will be more. That's just what it is. McNeil and Barnes are McNeil's definitely out. Barnes is not coming back for this season. Davenport's out. Pico's out. Kaminsky, we had hopes, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Wingo's not coming back. Dorsey and CD are not coming back. That's tough. Rodrigo's not coming back, but it looks like David Montgomery and Ennis Rakestraw are going to be back. Rakestraw just came off the IR. Montgomery's playing. He's still listed as questionable. He's still playing. So guys, you get we get Sonic and Knuckles back together again for division round. Rakestraw at least will give some depth, and who knows, and they may need him. You hope not, but let's talk about that for a moment. Coach, how you feeling about the injury situation now?
Well, there are a couple more names we should probably add into that too. Kevin Zeitler pulled a hamstring against the Vikings, and in that locker room after that game, there were two guys in boots. Their name was Pat O'Connor, and another guy's name was Terrion Arnold. Mm-hmm. So now Terrion Arnold has vowed that he's going to play. The X-rays were negative. Yep. It certainly wasn't that feeling in the stadium when we went to a TV timeout and he got carted. I mean, that's not a good sign typically. But it looks like that kind of that level of crisis has been averted. I mean, it does. I mean, he's avowed that he's going to play, and you really have not heard anything otherwise. So that looks like it's good. And thus he's not on the injury report. O'Connor is not on the injury report, although I mean he was another guy that's in a boot. When you're 6'6", 275, 280, that foot needs to. You got to be able to anchor those big feet in there, and we need those healthy. So Zeitler, who is a Pro Bowl, I mean, we don't need to get into that. That's a whole other episode, probably, this Pro Bowl, All Pro, snub, not snub type stuff. But Zeitler, let's face it, he's an All Pro caliber right guard, and we have him, and we're much better when he's in the lineup. He got, he pulled a hamstring, and at the age of 35, those we've all probably been there, and that's not the easy. That's not something that you get over within 48 hours typically.
No,
it takes a little time. So good that we have that time. But I mean, it's just typically good teams coming off of the bye, teams that are vibing like we are, and good things happen. Good things happen. So I mean. It's just, I think off of that list, we're probably going to get maybe a couple, but I think we've kind of known that too.
Drew, I didn't see Mosley on your list, and I know I'm just searching for depth right now in that secondary. What are we hearing? I mean, we haven't really seen the kid play since he got to Detroit much.
It's a foregone conclusion. Point there, Brad. No.
Yeah. He's active, but he's on the active roster, but he's inactive for games due to quote unquote illness, whatever that means.
Okay, yeah. It's almost like he's day to day, sort of.
Yeah, I mean,
it's true. He's kind of like there's no designation.
Okay, but he doesn't see the.
We're not expecting him yet. He could.
I'm not expecting him to come in and save our playoffs, but I'm just thinking depth in that secondary with Arnold.
I think what they're doing there, Brad, and I might be wrong, because they can leave that active, and but if he's not dressing, then they can take their emergency quarterback. Thus, Teddy Bridgewater dresses, which he did against Minnesota. So I think they usually leave one guy there so they can swap out if they need to.
That makes sense, Coach. Was there any word around the campfire regarding Bridgewater? What was the rationale behind him being active for that game?
No. I mean, other than, he knows the playbook. I mean, he was. It's not changed. He just was a head high school football coach. He's got a football head on him. So I mean, he didn't need, he needed to brush up maybe a little bit, and he was good to go. So, I mean, I just kind of think his play style is more like Jared Goff's than Hendon Hooker's is. True. And although I think the little wrinkles we've seen of Hooker, that's a kind of a tangent conversation. And I don't expect to see Hendon Hooker playing in the playoffs this year. But I'm not so sure who would come in. I'm not. You feel bad if that's not Hooker, because, he's the guy that's been here the whole time.
Yeah.
But, maybe the savviness is, there. I think presence. I think he's just a great locker room. I mean, he had some of the leadership skills and organizational skills and motivational skills to rally up one of the best high school football teams in the country in his first year.
Yeah.
So he must be a guy that has some magnetism to him and is a guy you want around. So I think maybe more than anything it's that.
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Hey, before we go into wild card weekend, Brad, talk about, this season right now. I mean, the Lions have won 15 games, most in team history. 2 back-to-back division titles, the first time in the Super Bowl era they've done that. So it'd be first time ever because there weren't divisions back in the. Well, yeah, there was the East and West. That's right. But they never did it back prior to that either. Just an incredible season right now. Your thoughts? How not just how important this bye week was, but what are you expecting? And when the Lions take on whoever they take on in the division round, you expecting to see a real fresh and fired up squad here?
Oh, for sure. And this mindset that exists in Allen Park is where my confidence lies. It's kind of a strange thing, right? Like lifelong fans and the team we cheer for, we can live in 2 different realms. These guys don't live with scars like we, maybe you guys get beyond things quicker than me. Oh, I've got scars.
No.
I've got them. And I my mindset has turned to the mindset of Jared Goff. I'm confident. I am absolutely confident in the ability of this roster, in what's been built over 4 years. This isn't just what are we going to do in the play. No. We're going to do what has been built over time. And lifelong Lions fans, we need to walk into those broadcasts, into that stadium with the confidence of our quarterback. He's not afraid of this. He's going to throw an arm punt up from the doggone his end zone, which is ridiculous. That ain't gonna freak them out. They're gonna rally that and do what's right. So, I've tried to encapsulate things, and and to your point about Aiden Hutchinson earlier, Coach, this isn't new. This didn't just start, and it's not ending. This isn't the start or the end. This isn't the start or the end. This is just a part of it.
Part of the timeline. Yep.
This is it. And so let's go in with some confidence. And that's what I'm expecting next week. I'm not expecting a perfect football game. I'm not expecting, 31-9, whoever we were playing. But I'm expecting a defense that has the confidence to stop the opponent. And I'm expecting the confidence of Jared Goff to just manage this offense to figure it out. They're going to figure it out over 60 minutes. And if Jake Bates has to come in and kick a game-winning field goal, guess what? Jake Bates is coming in and kick a game-winning field goal.
And he will. He will. Great points. Great points, guys. Let's talk about the wild card weekend. Let's preview. We'll start in the AFC first. And let's take a look at first. We got the first round by Kansas City Chiefs, tied with the Lions for the best record in football. It doesn't impact the Super Bowl. It's a neutral site game. We all know that. So the Chiefs are going to sit back as the AFC West champions at 15-2, and just like the Lions await their next opponent. Let's talk about that first wild card game. The Chargers, the 5th seed, are 11-6. They're taking on the South champion Texans at 10-7. Now, guys, AFC South this year, likely the weakest division in football. So a little concerning that Houston's kind of, I wouldn't say stumbling into the playoffs, but they're definitely not coming in full tilt as I would think. Basically, just looking at right now, they won their last game, but the Chargers are coming in on a 3-game winning streak here, guys. So let's talk about this one, Coach. I'll start with you. Jim Harbaugh leading this Los Angeles Chargers squad. I mean, brings Jesse Minter aboard and others, and just making it happen. And they are flying below the radar. No one's really talking about the Chargers. We should.
100% we should. Let's just do a little case study real quick. Where were the Los Angeles Chargers last year at this time? What was their record? Were they in the playoffs?
No.
We weren't mentioning any of that. Mm-hmm. Dean Spanos brings his son's college coach back. And the strength of that University of Michigan football staff, and there was plenty that remained, obviously. They defeated who could very possibly be the national champions this year when they went in 8-5.
Let's remind the viewers about that, Coach. Say it again. Sounds good.
Michigan beat Michigan beat Ohio State and Alabama again this year. They opened 2024 beating the University of Alabama, and they closed 2024 beating the University of Alabama. But nonetheless, a big strength of that coaching staff went to the West Coast with Coach Harbaugh. Look where they're at already. Year one.
Yeah.
And you know what? D'Amico Ryans is a great young coach. They play good defense there. The offense has been derailed by injuries, to a certain degree. But they have some nice threats. CJ Stroud is a little bit of valley from maybe last year, coming out of the gate so well. I like the Chargers.
Yeah.
These is a scratch claw battle. I like the Chargers.
And Brad, we saw the Lions play the Texans, and Jared Goff uncharacteristically throws 5 interceptions. The Lions still win on, what was that, a Jake Bates last second field goal, right? And at that time, the Texans were, I think, 4-0 at home already. So pretty impressive win, and really kind of set in Coach, you touched on it. Stephon Diggs has been lost for the year. That really did
Tank Dell.
Yeah, Tank Dell out for the year. And Nico Collins at one point was out as well. So they've got Collins back now. But Brad, talk about this one. How are you seeing it?
Yeah, I'm with Coach on San Diego, on LA. And it's just a culture creation again. I mean, we're gonna Chargers Lions may be the future of the league here next couple of years. They've got the quarterback. They obviously have Harbaugh who just puts in the work and gets the results. So kudos to them for figuring that out and getting that guy as their head coach. But this is going to set the bar for them, and they're going to Houston to win. And I feel like Houston's probably they're still trying to figure out exactly who they are and what they're going to lean on because it's up and down with them. So yeah, I'm a Coach.
Yeah, just one more point for me, Drew, before we go back to you, because we want what you think. But just if you look at it this way too, of all of our 15 victories, that probably is the game we played the worst in and still won. Yeah. Can a team like that? How long can a team like that thrive in the playoffs? What do you think, though, Drew? What do you think? It's in Reliant Stadium.
Yeah, but I'm with you guys. I just think Houston just not. You need a little bit. You got to have a little bit of momentum going into the playoffs, and the Chargers have that. Herbert has been Justin Herbert. They're second fiddle in their own city to the Rams. And that's also the second largest media market in the country, along with New York, and. I mean, their fan base is, let's face it, LA's different. I mean, I've never lived there, but I mean, it's just different. There's so much going on there. Here in Detroit, sports is actually absolute the focal point. But I just think, Quentin Johnston's improved under Harbaugh. Quentin Johnston was almost looking like a bust, and he really stepped up, and that's good. Ladd McConkey, what a pick there. I mean, Ladd McConkey's been great. They've been running back by committee. It's been, been a lot of guys dinged up, but Dobbins has stepped up definitely. And then their defense was really good with Joey Bosa. I mean, they're a very good football team. I agree with you guys, and I would, depending on how we see the rest of it shake out. I mean, if I'm the Chiefs, I'd be a little concerned about the Chargers coming in with almost like a nothing to lose mentality. You're going to face if that's how it shakes out. They're a scary team to play. Just because they're very athletic and they're very schematically they're pristine. They're well coached. So that's how I see it. I agree with you guys, definitely. Let's talk about one of the other games now, guys, in the AFC wild card weekend. I think this is the Amazon game, if I'm not mistaken. So if you have Amazon Prime, you're going to see this one, just like a Thursday night game. Pittsburgh Steelers, the 6th seed at 10-7, taking on that AFC North champions, their rivals, the Baltimore Ravens. Now, guys, the Ravens are 12-5 this year. They split this year. So they each won one on each other's home field. One thing I will say, though, coming into this one, it's a tale of two teams going in the opposite directions right now. The Steelers are right now on 4-game losing skid. The Ravens are on a 4-game winning streak. This is in Baltimore. Coach, how you seeing it?
It's you summarized it well, Drew. Thanks for saving my oxygen. I don't have to talk too long on this one. And I do have great respect for Mike Tomlin. And what Russell Wilson was able to do. I mean, he was able to help spark plug them into the playoffs. They played great defense, and that's their puncher's chance. If you play great defense, you're probably going to be a playoff team. If you play great defense in the playoffs, you have a chance to advance. But lest we forget about the Baltimore Ravens, that is a team that in the last 2 years, that is a team that beat our tails.
Oh, yeah.
So they still have that capability. They've had some hiccups. Lamar's just got to try to keep answering. He always has that blank performance in a playoff game. Whether it's this week or not, hopefully, for Baltimore fans, they probably hope that there is no blank weeks. But Baltimore's winning this one.
Uper, how you seeing this one?
Yeah, this is not much of a debate, because I just feel as though you've got two teams going the other way, as you said. Mike Tomlin's nobody has to tell anybody what a remarkable coach Tomlin's been.
Yeah.
It's been a while since he's been there. And, sometimes you need a fresh voice, even as great as a guy is. John Harbaugh has been in Baltimore for a long time too. But you just look at the rosters then, you look at what these teams can do. Their quarterback, Steeler quarterback versus Ravens quarterback, Steeler running back versus Ravens running back, offensive line versus offense. It's a Baltimore game to win. And I'm predicting that happens. And boy, that AFC there's going to be some games leading into the AFC championship game. This next round is going to be something.
Yeah, I agree with you guys too. I have Baltimore going. Truth be told, I had my Baltimore was my AFC pick in the Super Bowl preseason. I almost changed my mind. I that close right before this playoff, but I'm going to stick with what I know, because I think there's another squad we're going to talk about that's got a hell of a shot too. But yeah, I see Baltimore winning. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I'll be surprised if it's a blowout. I think it's going to be a tight game. They're division rivals. They hate each other.
They know each other. We talk about Minnesota and Detroit knowing each other. I mean, goodness gracious. How do you, if you're John Harbaugh, how do you coach against Mike Tomlin and vice versa? I mean,
yeah, it's just
going at it.
That's where you're looking at, can you stop the run? Can you limit the turnovers? Can you win the time of possession? Everything's but to your point, Baltimore seems to have an edge everywhere. Not a significant one necessarily, but they have an edge everywhere. Good luck stopping Jackson and Derrick Henry. Now, the team that can do that and force them to throw the ball, you've got a shot. Now, Steelers they're a tough team. I mean, when you look at their scoring offense and defense, the Steelers, their scoring offense is only 16th, but their defense was 8th. The Ravens scoring offense 3rd, defense 9th. So again, they're pretty tight. The Steelers have a 5-4 road record, and the Ravens are 6-2 at home. But again, I'm giving it probably a lot more statistical value than it really needs. The Ravens should win this game, and I believe they will as well. So I think we're all in accord on that one. So let's talk about the third wild card game, and that is going to be in Buffalo, New York. The Denver Broncos, the 7th seed, Sean Payton led Denver Broncos 10-7. They get that last wild card spot. Taking on the Buffalo Bills, 13-4, AFC East champions. Guys, we certainly know about the Buffalo Bills and what Josh Allen and company can do, but let's talk about this one. Brad, I'll start with you. How do you feel about this one? Does Denver have a puncher's chance?
Well, somewhere there's got to be an upset, right? Like this league is wild. There are things that happen that we don't expect. And this could be it. A young Bo Nix, Sean Payton knowing what to do, been there, his roster, believing in what he's telling them. There's some ghosts in Buffalo. There's some ghosts. What if things start going wrong at home? And what if this is a what if game. I don't know if I'm bold enough to predict that Denver's going to Buffalo and winning, but what the heck? Why not?
Really? Okay.
Why not?
Interesting.
Because there's always something that we've been around long enough to know things happen that we're not counting on. So why not?
Well, this is a Broncos team that they're 4-5 on the road, but they have the 10th ranked scoring offense, and their defense is the third stingiest in terms of points scored. But coach, the Buffalo Bills have the number 2 scoring offense and number 11 scoring against defense, and they're 8-0 at home. That's a home field advantage with the Bills Mafia over there. How do you see this one?
Well, Brad,
I admire your boldness, though, Brad. I do. I really do.
Well, yeah, and Bradley, I think I heard you say, what if things go wrong for the Buffalo Bills? Well, Bradley, I'm going to pose a question for you, too. What if they don't?
A lot of what ifs. It ain't no way to live. What if ain't no way to live? I get it.
And I guess I understand your lens, and you're 100% right. I mean, Brad, you're 100% right. I mean, there always is that week, that game during this week, an upset. I think it's coming on the other side in the NFC, but we'll get to that momentarily. And you bring very valid points. I mean, Bo Nix, what does he have to lose? I mean, he's just, he was just this kid that wasn't supposed to really. He's probably going to prove himself to not be the guy there. He certainly is the guy there. At least right now he is. Yeah. And they play really good defense, and they're a very well coached team, in Denver. But it's Western New York. I mean, there's no systems coming through there now, but I mean, it is what it is weather-wise. And the Bills are a very, very crafted, well-calculated team. That's another quarterback that's trying to prove that he can get it done in this time of the year, because he's certainly shown that he can otherwise. James Cook has been a very, very tough piece to stop. And they play good defense, my friend. Who has beaten the Kansas City Chiefs this year?
Yeah, there you go.
Buffalo Bills are winning this football game.
Yeah, and I understand. I'm going to say something right now. I'll go on record. I think I have before, too. I was so wrong about Bo Nix. I really did not think he was going to.
Oh,
I was very wrong about Bo Nix. I didn't like him at Auburn. And I was concerned that the Oregon year, the last season at Oregon, his only season at Oregon, was kind of a flash in the pan.
More about Oregon than it was Bo Nix. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it just goes to show you, I mean, the guy's determined, he's for real. And Sean Payton's a hell of a football coach. Sean Payton parted with Russell Wilson. They are eating the largest amount of money on a contract, I believe, in NFL history. And they went with Bo Nix, and now they're a playoff team. So
he's really their only choice. If you make that kind of a financial sacrifice, you are forced to start a rookie or quarterback on a rookie contract.
You can't afford it. He can't afford anyone else. So
he did. He struck gold. So would I be surprised if you were correct, Bradley? Not at all. Just hoping maybe not.
And I'll be honest, this was the team I almost flipped off Baltimore for Buffalo. Josh Allen is playing at a level that's, I mean, as great as Jared Goff's been, Josh Allen and even Lamar Jackson have been even better because of the rushing aspect. Passing wise, Jared Goff's been as good as anybody, but those fellas can run, and they do. James Cook has been an outstanding back. I'm most impressed with their receiving core. Shakur, they pick up Amari Cooper, and even who would have thought losing Stephon Diggs and really not having an answer per se, you would have thought that would have made him a little one-dimensional. Nah, Josh Allen's that good. The run sets up the pass. Much like their offense is very much like the Ravens' offense now. RPO, predominant run, but they can throw. They have great tight ends there. Knox and Kincaid. Excellent team. Yeah, they have a great defense too, and the Lions scored 42 on them, although the Lions lost that game. But Denver's not the Detroit Lions, but I mean, they got a puncher's chance. Heck yeah. If anything were to happen, and you're right, Brad, if they somehow are able to stop the run, if they can stifle the run and keep it close going into the second half, then things can happen. And then to your point, what does Bo Nix have to lose? He's playing with house money. This is an interesting game. If I'm Sean McDermott, who's an outstanding coach for the Buffalo Bills, I want to hit him in the mouth early and often. I want to put them down a couple scores, and I want to make them one-dimensional quickly. What do you think about that, Coach?
Yeah, well, I think this. If Denver does win this football game, you've got Denver going into Kansas City next week. And then another one, Harbaugh 2.
Oh,
John
yeah.
versus Jim, Baltimore, Los Angeles. Harbaugh 2.
Yeah.
So that could be lining itself up either way. Because let's say Buffalo does win. You would have the Chargers going into Kansas City. And then you would have that showdown, Buffalo-Baltimore second-round game.
Goodness.
And if, the Ravens have it going and the Chargers can keep the mojo going and put a dagger in the heart of the Chiefs, Harbaugh to an AFC championship. So, good stuff.
Me personally, guys, I have it shaken out that way. I have Baltimore squeaking one out against Buffalo. And then I do have the Chiefs beating the Chargers in a close game, but I have Baltimore going to the Super Bowl, beating the Chiefs in the AFC championship game. That's just how I'm seeing it. Doesn't matter, but it could happen. A lot of things can happen, right? I want to show this next slide because I'm so happy to show it. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? That's awesome. First round bye, Detroit Lions, 15-2 NFC North champions, best record in football. Life is good in the Motor City. Absolutely. But let's talk about the first round. The Minnesota Vikings, who the Lions vanquished, as we talked about earlier on Sunday Night Football. The lowly Vikings, who are 14-3 as a 5th seed. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it again now. That's not Detroit. I still think this sucks. I understand the reseed. I would like to see the NFL reseed after the first round. Honestly, I understand this scenario, but I would like to see the NFL reseed after this round. The NHL has tried that, and the NBA did as well. There's maybe some merit to it. A 14-3 team should have some home games too, but that's just my opinion. I digress. But they have to go not to LA. Unfortunately, the fires in LA this week are just awful, horrific. This game's going to be played in Arizona. So the home field advantage that the Rams had is kind of gone. And I mean, guys, let's say there's a humanistic aspect to this. Well, I mean, these guys are, they're living local too. I haven't heard any specific stories, but I'm sure a lot of that's got to be on these guys' mind. But they've got the Minnesota Vikings coming into their stadium, which is going to be the Cardinal Stadium. Coach, how are you seeing this one?
Well, a lot of ramifications on that one, because if you have, if Minnesota can go in there and take care of business, there's a good chance they're coming back here. Very good chance that they're coming back here to play the Lions once again. And I certainly think that can happen. I would, this is where we can see what Sam Darnold's made of. This has been his thing. This is why he was left for dead with the Jets. This is why the Panthers kind of turned their back on him. This is, kind of why he was, starting to look like he was going to be doing the Colt McCoy, Jacoby Brissett, the backup quarterback commercials that we're seeing here. And he was destined to have that designation. I don't think Sam Darnold was ready to be out of the league at all. I think he was going to become a backup. Yep. And that still very well may be the trajectory. But this is where he can maybe take a little control of that narrative. Can he bounce back? And what Los Angeles Rams team are we going to see? Are we going to see a team that fought tooth and nail and also lost by a couple points to the Buffalo Bills the week prior to the Detroit Lions did? Are we going to see the team that got their faces kicked in by the Arizona Cardinals? Yeah. They are healthy. Puka Nacua is back. Cooper Kupp is back. Kyron Williams will be playing. That offense is potent. even though that defense is, Aaron Donald is gone, and there's some others that have moved on to other things. That's still a very well put together franchise. Lest we forget, that's the franchise that developed our general manager. That has helped develop this one. So this is a tough one. I am going to go with the Rams. I'm just going to think that, they're going to be their full steam ahead. It's going to be in Arizona. I think they're playing for a lot. I think, there's a lot of emotion there. I don't think, these guys are pros, not being at home and playing in SoFi. They're going down to Glendale, Arizona, in a beautiful stadium. That's it's going to be real good there. Good weather for the Minnesota Vikings too. We saw, how the Vikings played last week on offense. Defense wins championships, but offense scores points, and you're going to have to do more than 9 to beat those Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Uper, how you seeing this one? Because I'll give you the folks some stat lines here. The Vikings with the number 9 scoring offense and the number 5 scoring defense. So obviously they're
very good. Yeah,
they're very good. The Rams with the number 20 offense and number 17 defense. But that offensive number is a little tricky because they had about a 5-week span without Nakua and Kupp. So Brad, how you seeing this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just interested to learn. I'm interested to learn watching what these teams are.
Yes.
Different than what I said earlier, that I've got no confidence. I don't have the confidence of Jared Goff on either of these teams, right? Like, I'm going to sit here and figure out who they are. And they're at the end of this game, they're going to figure out who they are. What did happen to the Minnesota Vikings last Sunday night? Did they get broken? Because the Lions have broken teams. Early in this year, right? You don't just lose to the Lions, you lose the next week too. That happened a lot for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as Detroit put into that game on Sunday night, so did the Minnesota Vikings. And now they were going to fly to LA, and now they're flying to Arizona. And now they still got a quarterback there's some rumblings up there trying to figure out what the future is going to look like. So I'm going to sit there and learn. And if I have to trust one of those teams to win that game, it's going to be the Los Angeles Rams, based on what Matthew Stafford has done, based on what their coaching staff has done. Sean McVay's won a Super Bowl, and they are getting that hell. Yeah, those numbers those season numbers that you mentioned on offense, that doesn't define what the Los Angeles Rams are today. So, this entire NFC, I don't want to predict anybody to win, but except for the Detroit Lions, but
so I struggled with this, guys. I'll be honest, even going into the Sunday night game, just looking at the scenarios, how what if the Lions were to lose that game and they get their 5th seed? I had every lower seed winning in the NFC. And I still might, but I'm not going to say it yet. But I just can't imagine it. I'll be honest with you. If you guys are right and the Rams beat this Vikings team, that tells me 2 things. One, Brad, you're right. The Lions broke them. The Lions got them. And number 2, and they have a problem that I'm so glad Brad Holmes doesn't have, is what do you do at quarterback now? Do you pay Darnold? Do you give him a 1-year franchise contract, which is going to be probably a $55 million hit, but it's a 1-year deal? Or do you say, you know what, we're going to stick with plan A originally, which was JJ. We're going to go with JJ and we're going to let Sam walk. I don't know. It's a problem I'm glad the Lions don't have, but to be honest with you, to me, and Coach, you mentioned it, Sam Darnold has his own destiny in his control. He steps up and shows out in this game, answers a lot of questions.
That's probably happening. That's franchise tag's probably happening.
Yeah.
If he goes in there and beats the Los Angeles Rams, he's coming back next year.
Yeah. And honestly, if I'm Sam Darnold, and if I'm Sam Darnold's agent, who I don't know who he's represented by, but to get a contract like that, and it will be around $55 million, because a franchise tag pays you, I believe, in the top 5 of your position. So he's going to make more money than Jared Goff next year if he's franchised. But I understand it. It makes sense potentially, and they can see if JJ McCarthy's the real deal and fully recovered after that knee surgery, which certainly as Michigan fans, we hope he is. We still want to beat the Vikings. I'm going to go with the Vikings, though. I think it's going to be a very, very close game, but I do see a lot of good thinking behind you guys. I mean, Matt Stafford has been there, done that, and a lot of these guys have rings from a few years ago. They know how to win in this league. The Vikings, don't have that pedigree, so there's a chance. This is a very interesting game with all the outside dynamics going on as well. So be fun one to watch. Let's talk about next the Washington Commanders, the 12-5 second wild card Washington Commanders taking on the NFC South champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 10-7. Now, guys, we know about Tampa Bay. We know about them from last year, beating them in Tampa and then having a hell of a time in the playoffs with them and still winning. But then in week 2, they come to Detroit and beat the Lions, sending them to a 1-1 record. But this team's been so, I would say, inconsistent this year. They've had injuries, though, too. I mean, talk about losing receiving cores. They lost Chris Godwin for the season, I believe, in week 4 or 5. Mike Evans was hurt at one point. They decided we're going to have to run the football, and they found a guy named Bucky Irving who they drafted, and he's become quite a player. Rashad White stepped up and played very well. They got Evans back. Now things are starting to roll. But Brad, I'll start with.
McMillan's been a nice player for them.
Who's that?
Jalen McMillan's.
Oh, Jalen McMillan stepped up. Absolutely. Number 2 receiver. Really nice player. I watched that game against the Saints. They needed to win that game at the end of the season to win the division because they didn't know what Atlanta was going to do. If Atlanta would have won and they would have lost, they would have been out of the playoffs. Atlanta damn near, they should have won that game, and they went to overtime with Carolina and lost. So Tampa was going to back in as it was. But then the Rams lost their final game, and Tampa came back and beat the Saints, who have a losing record, but it's a divisional opponent. I get it. It's like playing the Bears for Detroit. Records are out the window. It's going to be a bitch of a game. They win the game. They get that 3rd seed. So that got them to avoid Minnesota or Detroit. So they got to be feeling good about that. Let's talk about this one. Brad, I'll start with you on this one. Let's talk about this. How are you seeing the shakeout?
Well, it's been interesting to see what the Commanders have done this season. I mean, and that young quarterback is just electric. Like that we're gonna see a lot of him, as long as he doesn't get himself killed running around the field. But Tampa's a culture that has been developed over time. I've got some personal relations down there with John Van Dam on their staff, who's a relative, and probably I'd lose an entire side of my family's and they might be listening today. So I'll go with Tampa for the Van Dam family, and appreciate seeing him in the UP this summer for sure. The game's in Tampa. Maybe the rest of America isn't thinking about the Bucs, but I'll tell you, the Bucs are thinking about the Bucs, and the Bucs are believing in what the Bucs have done, and keep Baker Mayfield between the lines and try not to be a superhero, make a big mistake. That's how that's how Washington can win, is to get Baker to make mistakes. But let's go with the Bucs. Let's keep this train rolling. They won that division as poor as it was. You still gotta stack them up. So Tampa for me.
Yeah, it's a good pick there, Brad. And Coach, these teams are very evenly matched. The Commanders are 5-3 on the road. Bucs are 5-4 at home. They're the 4-5 scoring offenses, respectively, with Tampa being the number 4, and their defenses are middle of the pack, 18-16, respectively. How are you seeing the shakeout?
Differently. This is the opposite I'm picking. This is the one I got, and I just am basing it off of what I've seen the last 2 weeks from both teams. Mm-hmm. They had, downstairs at Ford Field, they had those games on. They had both of them. And up top, you could see both the Atlanta game and the Tampa game kind of, and seeing how it was going to shake out. And for a while there, was like, oh my goodness, is Tampa going to let this slide through the fingers? And in some ways, that's kind of We would have been. That'd even be better. That'd be, a Lions victory over Minnesota and a Tampa Bay loss would even be better news for the Detroit Lions, because then they would be out. If Atlanta was in that slot, okay, there's one loss that's off of the board that we would have. There would have been no one in the playoffs that we either wouldn't have played or wouldn't have beaten. But that's not the case. I just think, Daniels, Tampa plays great defense. They really, really do. And in many ways, it's just not they're not a good matchup for the Detroit Lions. I mean, they have some venom that hurts us a little bit. And so that being said, you said it yourself, Drew. They don't always play like that. And I'm not saying that they'll drop a dud. I mean, what they did last year in Philadelphia. They went into Philadelphia and just stung them right in the heart.
Yeah. And
they put their thumb down on them the whole game. I just think, Washington is just not going to go away. Not going to go away. And when it's all said and done, that athleticism is going to kind of show itself a little bit with Daniels. And I just think they're going to slide by. And I think that's the team that you're going to see in Ford Field next week. That's going to be the Washington Commanders.
These teams are both coming in hot. Washington's coming on fire. 5 straight wins to end the season, including that win against Philadelphia, which was really big. Tampa's won the last couple, so they've been playing playoff football too. Washington was in. They were certainly going for that division at number 2 seed. They certainly wanted that. Man, I think this is going to be such a close game. I was originally on your boat, Coach. I had Washington winning this game, but I just got a feeling because of what you brought up, what they did to Philly last year in the playoffs, what they did to Detroit early in the season, and even though they played poorly last weekend against the Saints, and they did until that fourth quarter, then they found it. Their offense to be able to score the way it does, even without Godwin, man, they are scary, and they've got a playoff pedigree. I'm going to agree with you, Brad. I'm going to go with Tampa. It's going to be a tight game. I'm not feeling that confident in my pick, I'll be honest with you. Like Coach, like you said, if the other Tampa Bay team shows up, Washington walks them. Washington's a very good football team. It's going to be a hell of a game. We got about 3 minutes to talk about the last one. I apologize for the tight time frame here, but we only have an hour. Let's talk about the Green Bay Packers, the 11-6 final wildcard team, taking on the NFC East champion 14-3 Philadelphia Eagles. Coach, how you seeing this one?
Both of them have sustained some injuries. I don't know what was happening with Green Bay, but Love got hurt last week. There was somebody else that sustained an injury that was not good. I just think both of them are a little bit on their heels, but I think Philadelphia is much stronger. I think the Eagles get this one done. I think it's going to be Commanders at Lions, and I think it's going to be Rams at Eagles.
Gotcha. Uper, how you seeing it?
Eagles. I'll go quick now. I mean, the game's in Philly. Green Bay's not the same level right now that Philly is. They've got all kinds of issues they're going to have to figure out on this offseason. And but I think it's going to be Philly. And I guess if my picks come through right, you got Matthew Stafford coming back.
Yeah,
to Detroit.
Yep.
Which I'm not really excited about, honestly.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
That complete nightmare, but yeah, I guess that's how it shakes out.
I had Green Bay winning this game up until a couple of days ago when I heard Jalen Hurts was going to play, and you couple that with the Green Bay's coming in, I believe, on losing their last 2. Philly's won their last 2. Philly is a talented team. I think there's a collision course with the Lions. The way I see it happening, it's going to be Minnesota coming to Detroit, like Coach Campbell said. See in a couple of weeks, Coach O'Connell. They come to Detroit, another barn burner. I see Detroit winning that, and then I see Philly beating Tampa. Philly coming to Detroit for the championship game. Detroit taking that one. That's how I see it. We'll talk Super Bowl picks down the road. But guys, awesome job. We're a little tight on time here, but great synopsis of the wild card. For Coach Andy Shield, the Marine City Mariners, for the Uper Brad Harrison, my name is Drew. Enjoy Wild Card Weekend. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like the video. Check us out on the ESEN network on Roku every Saturday night at 7 p.m. So guess what? In about 8 hours, you can see this one replayed on that channel. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you next week. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Follow us on YouTube so you don't miss an episode at the Sports Peninsula Podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter X. Just look for @SportsP Podcast, and follow us to keep up on sports around the great state of Michigan and beyond. You can also catch our show every Saturday night at 7 p.m. on the ESEN Network channel as part of Roku. When you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula Podcast.